Good morning, good morning, good morning again, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and yes, we are once again going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do the usual disclaimers and just yay moment. So, my Walmart was out of my protein shakes. I exercise a lot. These are kind of a necessity for me, you know what I mean? So I don't live in huge amounts of pain because I'm a psychopath when it comes to weights, right? So it was like outdated. Like they kept telling me, girl, this is delayed. So that knock at my door during the last video was those folks. So I came in, brought it in, and I now have all the protein. Beef crack. Yeah. Thank you, Walmart. Thank you. All right, folks, to the disclaimers, and we're going to jump right in. Again, we're trying to keep these short and sweet today because I still got to kick my own ass again. And because the chair that all broke down, I'm going to have to do the stairs. Damn it. Caesar, we who are about to die salute you. All right, in the description box, folks, you're going to find the link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's quote-unquote behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article, read it again, read it for the 100th time, and then share it on all your social media, all right? We also have linked in there NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are still crowdfunding in case the JRC has the balls to see through with their threats. So far, there's not been any development. So far, it seems all bark and no bite. I don't want them to do it. I want them to actually prove their insanity. You know, I'd just be sitting there if it were me in the witness stand staring at the lawyer and say, like, explain it to me like I'm 5. Right? Anyways. Also included is the link to the Ozark First article that involves the Agape boarding school / now Stone for Help situation. This is a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has and pending folks over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the investigation done by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, a doctor, sorry, itchy allergies are killing me, who's still on the premises on multiple, again, substantiated claims of rape, sodomy, and sexual assault of the boys there. We got a brand new attorney general who's too busy chasing after innocent drag queens who literally did nothing. Literally done nothing other than what they've done for the last several decades, which is hang out downtown at the bars, especially at Martha's Vineyard where they have their show, instead of actually punishing proven pedophiles in our state. So, by the way, folks, if you want to sit there and believe their bullshit, go right ahead. But these folks are not actually protecting anyone's kids. They meant what they said about pedophiles and groomers. Agape boarding school or Stone for Help or whatever the hell they want to name themselves this week would not be here. Okay? Don't let them sell you the lie. Because it's all bullshit and it's bad for you. Alright? Just wanted to get my piece in on that because it just fucking annoys me. We also have a governor who's all along with let's persecute drag queens, let's promote traditional values in Missouri where more women are at home. Again, I ask, who's going to pay for that, jackass? You? Some of us ladies take care of disabled folks. Okay? People who are physically disabled. If we are in the home, who's going to pay the bills? You, jackass? Just saying. Sorry, my state is hell. And if I had the money to move Republicans, believe me, my ass would have been gone years ago. Literally fucking years ago. Just saying. But yeah, he's hyped up on the power trip, so folks, please read that article and share it on all your social media, alright? Alright, folks, cool. Glad we went over that. We got the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, a link to Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones, alright? This channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and we speak on dark subjects. If your child is watching this and is 16 and younger, parental supervision is very much advised. Trigger warning, we are about to once again descend into the mad ravings of the lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. A doctor who only has a research degree, had his psychiatrist license yanked years ago, and that in actuality should have any kind of medical power over anyone. Just saying. You're going to hear victim blaming, gaslighting, abuse and torture apologencia. He's going to blow smoke up our ass and tell us it smells like roses. Okay? He has enough ableism and bigotry to circle the globe a few thousand times and a big enough ego to make me say with complete confidence that this man obviously has a God complex. So, be prepared for the stupid, alright? Also, warning. Allergies. This is one of my worst time of the years for him. Pretty much starting from February straight through April, it is sheer hell. You may hear me cough. You may hear some weird phlegm thing happening in the back of my throat. I apologize for that in advance. I have no control over that. It's another reason why this state fucking sucks. Alright. Let's go through it. Further, as noted above, in addition to JRC's obligations under the DDS regulations, JRC itself is a party to a settlement agreement with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Oh, are you finally going to tell the truth, Doctor? Did you tell him when it was over? Did you tell him it's because you killed a student? Probably not. But let's move on. The settlement agreement, which was adopted as an order on the court on January the 7th, 1987, remains in effect to this day, having been upheld and enforced by the Massachusetts courts in 1995 and affirmed by the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts in 1997. You use the courts like it's a flex, Doctor. And you do so because no one in their right mind who actually works in this field would even deign to call what you do actual medicine. You lean on the courts because specifically they are not trained in this area at all. As I've said many times on this channel, these individuals went to law school, not medical school. These individuals don't even have so much education as your usual advocate or social worker, okay? They're lawyers. They do not, in actuality, have any comprehension of what the JRC actually gets up to, or the psychological on top of physical damage that it does to the individuals that have to undergo this insanity. The fact that they keep using the courts as a defense, it's not a defense, JRC. It is literally not a defense. The courts don't always get it right. That's why we have such a thing as a court of appeals. You know, the courts do not always get it right. Especially Massachusetts. Would you like to draw up the whole history of your courts? Because I can go all day. Quit using it as a defense. It doesn't work. And in context of what you're trying to defend, it doesn't even make any comprehensible sense. A court of law cannot, in its capacity, as it serves the entirety of the state or the local area, actually govern and look over a program properly. Their caseloads are coming out of their ears, folks, and they're still dealing with backlog from COVID. They are hardly going to have the time to leave their judge chambers and actually do a true walkthrough of the entirety of that school, okay? It's ridiculous. It's not a flex. Stop using it. Defend it on its own merits. Citing actual legitimate people in the field, or shut up. Okay? Quit using individuals that do not work in the field to justify your stupidity. Alright? We're going to lead a little bit more of this. We're going to try to cut it in half here, alright? The settlement agreement also provides that where the client is an adult and able to provide informed consent to a treatment plan, which includes aversive procedures, the plan may be implemented upon his or her acceptance of its provisions. That's a big lie. Let me explain a few things to you about this field in the fucking 80s. Alright? Let's give you a backlog education of what he's trying to use as a flex. Where this agreement came from, folks, was due in direct response to the court case due to the death of one of their students, in particular Linda Cornelison. And we've done multiple videos on her and what happened. They showed, if nothing else, gross incompetence. Linda Cornelison died of a stomach ulcer, folks, something that should have been easily dealt with had it been dealt with on time. But because the individuals that they take are not properly trained, in spite of what they say, guess what? Mental health employees who've only had a week of training should not have any business near any patients, point blank, period. And it shows, that makes it abundantly clear in what happened to Linda Cornelison. Instead of taking her to a doctor or even having the nurse so much as check on her, when she started groaning and complaining, they punished her for it as a behavior. Before all was said and done, because of the groaning and the pain that Linda Cornelison was experiencing, for the last few days and hours of her life, she was subjected to over 80,000 adversives. Skin pinches to where she bled, bruises all over her body, her arms, her buttocks, the soles of her feet where she bled. They used hot sauce on her. They used ammonia on her. They spanked her repeatedly. And while this continued to go on for days while she remained untreated, and they just couldn't figure it out, like, well, maybe if we just get more harsher with our punishments, she'll stop. The inevitable happened. By the time they realized it was actually a medical issue, she was already too far gone. And she died in the ER. Okay? She died due to their incompetence. It also made clear to the Massachusetts courts of the time, and DDS in particular, the level of cruelty these bastards use against these students. So DDS refused to license the JRC for that year. Point blank refused. The JRC then sued them. Now, remember when I told you DDS, or in our case, it's called DMH. These programs are not well funded now. They basically survive on fumes, folks. Fumes. Back in the 80s, you can bet it was 1,000 times worse. They did not have the unlimited funds needed to continue to fight the JRC. These guys are making thousands of dollars off of each kid's head every year. Every year. They have an unlimited source of income. DDS did not. To put it point blank. So the JRC forced them into a settlement agreement, which they now have referred to as the consent decree. But it falls on its face, and here's where it does. Let's talk about the ableism of the 80s and the 90s real quick. Look at what it's saying here in this particular paragraph. If they are able to provide informed consent. Well, who's going to decide whether the person is competent enough to consent to torture or not? The JRC basically rolls us in there like Hannibal Lecter. You think the judge's going to ask them for their opinion? No. The JRC is going to present us in such a manner that it looks like we cannot consent to anything in regards to ourselves. Therefore, we must have someone, a guardian or a parent, do it for us. Okay? This is the reality of the situation. None of these students come to this school of their own free will. None of them sign up for this torture that they call treatment of their own free will. Okay? That's the lie that they sell you. And then they'll use the courts because they say that the court agrees every year to each plan. I see it, doctor. Now let me raise this. What in the name of God makes you think that I'm stupid? These judges have caseloads out their ears. Yes, even in 2010, the stacks were insane. I know this because work the field, folks. I worked with those case managers day in and day out, okay? These judges are fucking backlogged during the best of years. During the best of years. They do not have the time to properly oversee the treatment of these kids. Period. Period. Therefore, them approving doesn't really fix anything. It's not the check that the JRC wants you to believe that it is. Real checks and balances would have an individual designated by the court to act as the court's behalf to do a full functional walkthrough and judgment of the JRC. But they're not going to do that. Therefore, in actuality, there is no checks and balances. The JRC has acted with impunity for decades and decades. Their first real threat was back in 2020. Okay? Just making it out there. So why did I provide you with all of that? I wanted to raise the fact that the reason why they got their consent decree came from the fact that they managed to kill one of their students through negligence. And while that student was dying, tortured her over and over and over again, making her last few days and hours on Earth literally hell on Earth. I wanted to provide you the context to let you know that places like DDS do not have unlimited funds and income to fight a court case indefinitely. These places are very poorly funded. A lot of times they're understaffed, and the reason why they're understaffed and the caseloads are so high is because, again, they are so underfunded. I wanted to cut to the quick this idea that the judge and the court systems in Massachusetts in actuality provide any kind of reasonable checks and balances when it comes to this school. They don't. They literally can't. Literally can't. These judges oversee massive stockpiles and cases for folks. They don't got the time to be able to do a proper truth check. Okay? The people that they consult with, the psychiatrists and psychologists that the doctors say they talk to, are provided by, conveniently, the JRC. Okay? It's not the checks and balances Dr. Matthew Israel wants you to buy that it is. I also wanted to prove irrevocably, once and for all, that the kids who are there are not consenting to this shit. Okay? Point blank. All right? All right, so let's go ahead and close out on this one, shall we? We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit those comments. I do appreciate your time, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.